I've been trying to get this recording started for the past like 20 minutes, and Franklin wants all the attention right now. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right, Frank. But he seriously, this cat is the biggest baby on the planet. Like if he could just cuddle me all day, he would. Right? Yeah, yeah, he's very happy. Obviously, we're all very happy here in oil country as well with the Oilers. Massive, massive come from behind victory last night. Looks like Franklin will get settled on my lap here. Hit the like button for Franklin today. We also have, on top of a Franklin, who's, hi, bud. Say hi to everyone. Hi. Hi, Franklin. We also have a kitty on my desk. He's also hanging out. Where are you going, Franklin? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Don't sniff kitty. He'll get mad. He might get mad. Might have a little cat fight here. We don't want a cat fight. Oh, boy. We love the cats here in oil country. We love the cats here in the Austin hockey household. They are just beautiful creatures. Franklin is just going to want my attention the entire time I record. So you know what? I'm just going to record with Franklin, looking around. See, he's very friendly. I know a lot of you like it when my other cats, Mochi and Kitty, are on videos or streams, but they're a lot more shy. They don't usually like being in front of the camera. Franklin likes being in front of the camera. Of course, we're going to get into the hockey discussion. I'm just distracted by the cats right now. I hope you all had a wonderful night, oil country. I know I did. I also had a very restless sleep because of just how exciting that game was, how much energy that I had. And now we get to talk about what the heck happened last night. We get to do the day after discussion. Whole bunch to talk about, of course, because of how raw my voice is after screaming at basically everything during the game last night. I was screaming and crashing out during the first period, and then I was screaming of excitement in the second period, and then I was screaming of excitement in the third, and then, of course, the overtime. What a hockey game. And if you thought last year's Stanley Cup final was one of the best cup finals in NHL history, the Oilers and Panthers decided in the rematch that they are just going to one-up that final and have an even more epic final this time around. This rematch is everything fans could have ever hoped for, and it's also probably a little bit more than my heart can take. And I know for Oilers fans and Panthers fans, I'm sure you're all in that same boat with me. Boy, oh boy, if you're a neutral fan, though, you are probably loving every single minute of this cup final. And it also shows that Game 3 was an outlier, right? You know, it was one of those blowout games that happens in playoff series. There's usually at least one blowout game every series for some reason for one team or the other. The Oilers had a blowout game against the Stars in the conference finals. The Oilers got blown out in Game 2 against LA. It happens. These things happen, right? And, moving forward, obviously the Oilers, their key to success is please just score the first goal, but also more importantly, stay the heck out of the penalty box. I don't know how many times the Edmonton Oilers are going to high stick an opponent and go to the box within the first 10 minutes of the first period. And last night, actually, it was funny. I was saying during the live stream that even though the Oilers took another high sticking penalty that was their first penalty of the game. It was Evander Kane's penalty. It was after the 10-minute mark. There was about 9.5 minutes left in the first period when he took it. So we got to take the wins when we can. Maybe in the future, maybe in Game 5, maybe we make it to the 15-minute mark of the first period before that high sticking penalty comes around. Of course, I am hoping that they just keep their sticks down and control what you can control. Your stick is one thing that you absolutely can control in hockey. For the most part, 9 times out of 10, you should be able to control your stick. You are professional athletes. Keep your stick down. All right. Now, of course, the Oilers, they were down 3-0. They scored 3 unanswered in the second, and then Jake Wallman gave the team the lead with 6.5 minutes to go in the third before Sam Reinhart tied the game with the net pulled for Florida with 19 seconds left. And then Leon Draisaitl with his 4th overtime winner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. That sets a new NHL all-time record for most playoff goals in overtime in a single playoff season. So congrats to Leon Draisaitl. He is captain clutch right now for this Edmonton Oilers team. And Draisaitl, it's huge that he's coming up in these big moments because last year in the Cup final, Draisaitl didn't have a single goal. He had zilch on the board, and I believe he only had 2 assists in that 7-game series. So the fact that Leon Draisaitl is producing on the score sheet is massive. And the fact that he's coming up clutch in overtime is even more massive. And obviously, there are other things to talk about, and we will in the day after discussion here. We'll switch our little overlay to the Oilers versus Panthers game 4. Bottom of the screen are some of the advanced metrics from the game last night. Expected goals for in all situations, at 5-on-5, 54.82% in favor of the Oilers, but the Corsi 4 was heavily in favor of Florida. The Oilers had 42.95% of the shot attempts and 48.9% of the high danger chances. Last night, the high danger chances by the end of the game were 24-23 in favor of Florida by the end of the game in all situations. After the first period, though, high danger chances, I believe, were 12-1 for Florida, 13-1 or something after the first. So the Oilers, that means the Oilers had the next, 21 out of the next 30 high danger chances, which is pretty good. That's pretty good if you're Edmonton, right? That second and third period in overtime, that's how you have to play moving forward, especially at 5-on-5. Now, when we talk about the numbers in this game, there's a lot of different storylines from the game, but on the right side of the screen, I kind of picked out some of the most important things that I want to talk about, certain players that stepped up and certain moments from this game that I think are noteworthy. And then we'll basically just wrap things up this day after discussion. Again, we're just going with the flow today. This is a very formal discussion, nothing too crazy, not going nuts with the overlays or podcast type discussion. But the Oilers last night at 5-on-5, this is why it's so important for Edmonton to stay out of the penalty box. They outscored Florida 4-1 at 5-on-5. Of course, Florida, 2 of their goals were on the power play. One of them came with the net empty. So those don't count as even strength or 5-on-5 goals. So the Oilers, if they can keep this series at 5-on-5 as much as humanly possible, I like their chances. And heading back home to Edmonton, it is a 1-day layover, right? Normally, when you have the travel from Edmonton to Florida or Florida to Edmonton, because of how long that flight is, it's one of the longest distances between two teams in the Stanley Cup final. I think the only distance that would be longer is if Vancouver made the Cup final and played Florida, I think is the statistic that I saw. In any case, they usually have 1 day for travel and then 1 day of rest, and then you'll play on that third day. But there's only 1 day of rest here, and that is the travel day, which means tomorrow, who knows if we'll see anyone on the ice for morning skate for the Oilers. I know the Panthers generally aren't on the ice during off days anyways, so that's just a Florida Panther thing. I don't know if that's calculated. I don't know if that means Florida's dealing with injuries. Panthers fans, you can weigh in. Let me know if that was normal last year. I honestly don't remember if the Panthers were off the ice during off days last season. But for Edmonton, of course, I think the lack of time between games benefits Edmonton here. I felt that as the game was progressing last night, it really did feel like the Oilers were taking charge. They were taking control, and Florida was starting to look a little bit tired. Now, they did come out in that overtime, the Panthers, that is, and they were running the show. The Florida Panthers had so many chances, including a massive opportunity for Sam Bennett, basically all alone in the high slot. He gets a shot off, but Calvin Pickard got a piece of the glove, right off of the glove, and then it goes up over his shoulder, and it hit the crossbar. Now, when that play happened during the live stream, when I was doing commentary, the way the angle looked on the Sportsnet feed, I thought that puck may have hit the back of the net and then came out. So I was frantically going on Twitter. I was refreshing my Twitter feed. I was looking at my other screen, which is over here, just in front of me. And I was refreshing Twitter as I was still doing play-by-play, being like, oh God, did that actually go in? And luckily for Oilers fans, that puck did not go in. Calvin Pickard with the save of the game. A few minutes later, Draisaitl wins it on a bit of a fluky one. If we want to call the Game 2 OT winner for the Panthers a little bit lucky, a little bit fluky, that beat Stuart Skinner 5-hole by Marchand, who didn't really get a good shot off at all, but it just sneaked through his legs. Draisaitl last night, he was trying to center it out in front to Perry. It goes off of Mikola's leg under Sergei Bobrovsky and into the net. Now, speaking of Leon Draisaitl, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in this video, he sets the all-time playoff overtime goal record with his 4th overtime winner of the postseason, which is just unbelievable to me. He had 1 against LA, 1 against Vegas, and now 2 against the Florida Panthers. Of course, the game against LA, which was game 4, the game that I got to go to, my only playoff game I've ever been to in my entire life. What a game that was, game 4 against the Kings. Draisaitl, of course, it doesn't matter who gets the winner, but I am very happy that it is Leon. He comes up clutch in the biggest moments for Edmonton. He has been absolutely clutch throughout the entire postseason. He now has 11 goals in the playoffs, and if this team is going to win the Stanley Cup, it's going to be because of efforts like that. Now, Leon had a really tough start to his game. I also thought that he was very inconsistent in his play. I thought on the power play, he wasn't looking as sharp as we're used to seeing him. 5-on-5, the first, I'd say, 30 minutes of this hockey game for Leon were just dreadful. But as the game went along, got different line mates. He was reunited with Podkolzin, and then him, Podkolzin, and Perry, just like lights out, man. Podkolzin, Draisaitl, and Perry is a terrific line, and they controlled a ton of chances, a ton of opportunities, and of course, Podkolzin ends up tying the game up in that third period, which was fantastic to see. And speaking of the Oilers and their win last night, the Oilers are the first team in NHL history to overcome a 3-0 deficit after one period of play in the Stanley Cup Final. Or what I should say is overcome a 3-goal deficit after the first period, right? There have been other times. I think there was 37 times before last night where a team was down 3 goals after the first, and not one team has ever come back to win that game during the Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton was the first team in NHL history to accomplish that last night. Now, why is that super important to know? Well, I've had a lot of fans come at me for my reaction after the first period. And you know what? During the first period, when Florida made it 3-0, I was having a full-blown, mental breakdown. I was freaking out. I was smashing my hand on my chair. I took my headset off and threw it on my desk. I was so mad. And I truly believed that it was over, right? It's one thing to be down 3-0. It's another thing to be down 3-0 against one of, if not the best defensive teams we have seen in the Stanley Cup Finals, and that's the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers are legitimately one of the best teams in the entire NHL, and they could conceivably be the best team once again for the second year in a row if they were to also win the Stanley Cup again. But for the Oilers, you're down 3-0, and yes, we have seen this team come back. We've seen the Oilers with these miraculous comebacks all season long, regular season and playoffs. So a lot of fans were, I don't blame you for being upset that I, quote unquote, gave up. I did. I'm going to be honest. I gave up. I said the game was over. I said it would be a miracle if Edmonton came back and won the hockey game. Now, when that second period started and Nugent Hopkins scored to make it 3-1, you could feel the energy starting to turn. And I was telling everyone in the chat, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be excited. It's just one, but let's build off that. And the team absolutely did build off that, which was huge. Of course, I guess moving forward, no matter what the score is, I'll just never give up on this team. Just in general, listen, I where my passion comes from the heart always. When this team wins, the highs are high. When the team is losing, the lows are low. The Oilers, when they were getting blown out in game 3, I was very stoic, very neutral, very just ho-hum. Let's not worry about it. Being down 3-0, and at that point, they had been outscored 9-1 in their last 4 periods of play. There was massive, massive concern in Oil Country, and especially with myself. But I'm glad that there were a lot of fans like you at home that were in that live stream telling me to keep believing. The positivity was very, very strong, and I do appreciate that. You keep me all level-headed, so thank you for that. Calvin Pickard, after the first period, he came in relief of Stuart Skinner. Now, was that first period on Stuart Skinner? No. In fact, I would argue the only player that showed up for Edmonton on time last night was Stu. And I feel really bad for Stuart Skinner. Last night was a night where, he gave up 3 goals in the first on 18 shots. Not one of those goals was his fault. Not a single goal was his fault. One of them was on the 5-on-3. Another one was on another power play. And then one of them was just a ridiculous chance in front. Troy Stetcher misplays it behind his net, takes a high stick that's uncalled, and then it's absolutely buried in front. And that made it 3-0 with right at the end of the first. And Troy Stetcher, he didn't see the ice the rest of the game. Was it on Troy Stetcher? Was that truly Troy Stetcher's fault at the end of that first period either? No. But the coaching staff for Edmonton, they made a conscious decision to sit Stetcher the rest of the game and then also put Pickard in the net for Stuart Skinner. Skinner deserved better last night. He deserved better from his teammates in front of him. And yes, Edmonton, once again, we talk about it a lot with Stu. When he's hot, he's hot. When he's cold, he's cold. Last night, he's the only reason why this game was not 5, 6, or 7-0 for Florida after the first period. Some of the saves that Stu was forced to make because Edmonton decided that nobody wanted to have any urgency whatsoever. As a player playing in front of the goaltender, at least there was a look in the mirror moment. There had to have been during that intermission. Chris Knobloch, he makes a conscious decision to go with Calvin Pickard. And Pickard now, in the game last night, this is Pickard's net, right? He's 100%, no matter what happens in game 5, no matter what happens in game 6, and if there is a 7th game, no matter what happens, that is Calvin Pickard's net. For Calvin Pickard last night, he came in, stopped 22 of 23 shots, a .957 save percentage, a .82 goal save above expected, and he improves his record to 7-0. And some of the saves that Picks made last night were massive. They don't tell the whole story with the goals saved above expected or the save percentage. He stopped a breakaway on Lundell before Darnell Nurse made it a 1-goal game. And then in that overtime, he had that miraculous glove save on Sam Bennett in the high slot. The NHL's playoff leading goal scorer, Sam Bennett. So that was a huge save for Calvin Pickard. It allowed Leon Draisaitl to eventually score the winner. Calvin Pickard came in, big dick picks, we call him here in oil country. I absolutely love that. He was clutch. And this is Calvin Pickard's crease now. Fair or not to Stuart Skinner, it's not like Calvin Pickard lost the crease because of his inability to, play strong. Calvin Pickard was injured during that Vegas series. Stuart Skinner came in, had 3 shutouts in like the first 6 or 7 games that he played. Stuart Skinner, he came in, he did a really good job. But now we're back to Calvin Pickard. You have 2 goaltenders that can get the job done, and that's super important, and something we also talked about in the series preview, right? If Bobrovsky keeps stumbling, Bobrovsky can be leaky. Some of the saves Bobrovsky made last night, goodness gracious. Sergei, he was on the case until he wasn't on the case. Some of the saves that Bobrovsky was making were just ridiculous, just unbelievable saves, but he is leaky. He can give up goals. He is prone to a squeaker here and there. If you're the Oilers, if you're able to keep taking advantage of that, Florida doesn't really have a secondary option. The Oilers do. The Oilers are comfortable going with Stu or Pickard, and that is an advantage, right? You can look at Pickard and Stu combined, and you can say, well, Bobrovsky's better than both of them. That is absolutely true. But the fact that Edmonton can reliably go to one of their goaltenders, whether it's their starter or their backup, although at this point Pickard is definitely like a 1A, 1B situation, that's huge for Edmonton. So great game from Calvin Pickard. This is his crease to lose now, and I expect a big game 5 from him and the team in front of him. The Oilers cannot afford to start slowly once again. It's the Cup Finals. You're 4 games in. You have been able to get away with some slow starts so far. Not anymore. It's a best of 3 now for the Stanley Cup. They better be ready to go tomorrow night in Edmonton. Now, next player I want to talk about, Darnell Nurse, who I had a full-blown crash out during that first period. He took a stupid penalty that gave Florida a 5-on-3, eventually led to a goal against. He was on the penalty kill at one point. When the kill ended, Nurse decided to skate off of the ice with the puck in the defensive zone, which led to a goal against. And then at the end of the first period, it's not on Darnell Nurse. Troy Stetcher tried to reverse it to him, gave it up, puck comes out in front, goal for the Panthers. Darnell Nurse, legitimately, in my opinion, had the worst period of an Oilers defender that I can remember in my lifetime. Regular season or playoffs. I have never seen a player have as bad of a period as Darnell Nurse did in that first. But Darnell Nurse, the A on his sweater. And I pointed that out. I was so mad. I was like, Darnell Nurse has an A on his sweater, and that's the performance that you're getting from one of your leaders. It's unacceptable. And maybe he was called out in the locker room in the first intermission. Maybe Nurse got up himself and went, you know what, boys, that's on me. A lot of that period is on me. It's unacceptable for me as a leader. I'm going to step up in that second period. and boy, did he step up. Darnell Nurse then played the best hockey I've ever seen Darnell Nurse play. The highs and lows of this hockey team, man. The highs and lows of certain players. Darnell Nurse in that second, he scored to make it 3-2 for the Panthers, and then he set up Podkolzin with the primary assist on the game-tying goal. Nurse finished with a +2 rating. He had 4 shots on goal, 4 blocks, and 4 hits. Without Darnell Nurse last night in the second period, third period, and overtime, the Oilers do not win this game. As much as the game was almost solely on Darnell Nurse and to a lesser extent Evander Kane for just taking stupid penalties, Darnell Nurse redeemed himself. He absolutely redeemed himself, and I will eat my words and for the things that I said during the stream, during that first period and first intermission. Darnell Nurse redeemed himself, and if he plays like he did in the final 40 minutes of regulation and overtime, this team's in a good spot. But he has to dig deep here, and he has to find a way to do that consistently. Cannot afford another first period performance that we saw from Nurse last night. I'm very happy that he turned things around, because when Nurse is playing well and confident, the team around him also plays well. Darnell Nurse, there's a reason why he got the contract that he did. Whether we agree with that contract number or not, there's a reason why he was given that number. Because he has it in him to have games like he did last night. That 40 minutes, final 40 minutes of regulation, that overtime, if he played like that literally every single night, he's worth every single penny that he gets. The problem is he doesn't play like that consistently. Can he do it at least a couple more times? For 2 more wins for Edmonton, that's all we're asking for here. That would be massive. Darnell Nurse, huge game. Huge game from the Doc. Next up, we have Vasily Podkolzin. Last night, he had 1 goal, 1 assist. He had a +2 rating, 2 shots on goal, 5 hits, 0 giveaways. Vasily Podkolzin, he doesn't get a lot of ice time on most nights, but when he's out there, he is just doing positive things. He was reunited with Draisaitl last night. He scored the game-tying goal in the second period off of a wraparound feed by Darnell Nurse. Vasily Podkolzin, without that game-tying goal, without his play helping turn things around for Edmonton, getting in on the forecheck, laying the body, and also playing responsibly with the puck and away from the puck, of course. Podkolzin is always very responsible in his defensive zone. You never see Pods making any mistakes. Pod goals in, as we like to say when he scores. Huge night for Edmonton. One of the unsung heroes for the team last night. I wanted to give a shout out to him. And the last player that I want to give a shout out to before we wrap things up here on the day after discussion, Jeff Skinner. Last night, he had an 83.38 expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. It led every single player on either team. Jeff Skinner had a +1 rating, 2 shots on goal in 12:33 of time on ice. And the Skinner-Henrique-Frederic line was by far Edmonton's best line. At 5-on-5, that line had a 76% expected goal share. They were terrific. A great, great third line for Edmonton. And it's only a matter of time before Frederic or Skinner or Henrique start putting the puck in the net. Henrique had an assist last night, which was great to see. You love that depth production from your bottom 6. Jeff Skinner gets into his first ever Stanley Cup final game on the road in a hostile environment, and he passed with flying colors. Jeff Skinner is going to be in the lineup for Game 5. There is no reason to pull him. He is going to play the rest of this series, and if he plays like he did last night, the Oilers are in a very good spot with a great chance to hoist Lord Stanley in the next couple of games here. That is it from me. Also, the lighting looks a little bit different. I'm sure people are going to mention that. I don't know why the lighting looks different on my webcam today. I hope you enjoyed today's day after discussion. I hope you enjoyed being able to see Kitty and Franklin. Make sure to hit that like button. Tomorrow morning, we will have another pregame report. That's what those are called. And then tomorrow night, I will be live once again doing more live stream play-by-play. Hopefully, I have a voice that is rested by then. I can't wait to see all of you there tomorrow. Thank you for your continued support. We are getting very close to 7,000 subscribers, which is crazy to me. Last night, we gained over 200 subs just in one day, which is like, listen, relax, folks. All right, I know we're excited. Let's just calm down. Of course, I do appreciate it. Thank you all so much. Make sure you tell someone that you love them today. Make sure to drink lots of water, get lots of rest, rest your voices, rest your hearts. Go for a walk, enjoy the fresh air if you can, if it's not too smoky where you live. I know here in Canada, a lot of areas are just like wildfire smoke everywhere, so maybe staying inside is the play today. But if you can go outside and enjoy some fresh air and some sunlight or rain, I like the rain. Maybe I'll go for a walk in the rain today. Enjoy your day, all right? I love all of you, Oil Country. You're seriously the best fans on the planet. Tell them that you love them. And as always, fight like a kid. Fight like Ben. Let's go, Oilers. 2 more wins. Best of 3. Let's get it done.